Sometimes in life, you just need a simple project, something that gets you in the garage and gets you smiling and gets you happy. My last project took ages, lots of gluing, lots of cutting, and today I want brainless, mindless woodwork. So I thought, what do I want in life? I want birds. No, not that type of bird. Goodness me, what's the matter with you? Get your mind out the gutter. That type of bird. Anyway, I've got some plans. Go and wash your brain out with soap. Now, before we get started, I want to be completely open and honest with you. If you're watching this video expecting this to be a tutorial on how to build a bird box, it is not going to be that for you, I'm afraid. This is more of me having a bit of storytelling time, about me learning something about myself. I found these plans online, and yes, you're right, it looks like they're designed for a 12-year-old to follow. That's what I thought. So I headed down to B&Q to pick up some of the most warped lumber that you have ever seen in your life, but it was the right dimensions. As I said earlier in the video, I wanted something simple. I fancied going into the garage for an hour and coming out with a finished product, which is not usually the way I worked. Here I'm just transferring all of those measurements from the plans onto the piece of wood, then simply cut them all up. This was one of those so far so good scenarios. I'd only been in the garage for about 5 minutes and already got a cut list and had made pretty much all of the cuts. I still had to give them a bit of a light sanding to avoid splintering my birds, but other than that, I was making good progress. I used a 25mm Forstner bit to drill the hole in the front. This is specifically designed for blue tits, in case you're wondering. I even went to the effort of using the trenching feature on the miter saw to add some little ladders, I suppose you would call them, on the inside for the baby birds when they want to fledge. And then after that I used a mixture of exterior glue and some nails and just started hammering everything together. And it was kind of at this point where I had the feeling that this wasn't going to be as smooth as I thought. You can maybe notice on the table there just how warped all of this wood was. But I figured this is a bird box. It's going to go outside. If it stays on the wall a couple of years, job done. Not bad for a half-hour little build. And I was just about done, literally the final nail about to go in, bish bash bosh. Almost there. Huh. Yeah. Then I was Mardy. Real Mardy. So Mardy, in fact, I had to have a quiet little interior word with my own brain. Here's the guy that publishes woodworking videos on YouTube, and yet cannot build a bird box designed for a 12-year-old. Having used only half the length of timber, I decided, do you know what? I don't like nails anyway. I'm just going to pre-drill and screw everything. This is cheap pine. I should have known it was going to split. I'll just do it the way I know how, with some deck-in screws and a bit more time and a bit more patience. So that's exactly what I did. I rebuilt every part of it because I didn't want to take the nails out. Right, I've got over my Mardy. This is awful. No amount of sanding in the world is going to make that look pretty. Now, I know it's just for the birds, and I know the design is for people starting out in woodworking, and technically the design has worked. But the wood is awful. There is just nothing about it that I like. And I'm pretty sure the wife won't let me put that in the garden. Taking it back to the roots. I've got two nice lengths of premium pallet wood that don't remotely go together, and I think I can use this to make a much better bird box. Plus, it's so full of holes, I won't need to do any for ventilation. The trouble is, I wanted to finish this today because it's a lovely sunny day to go up a ladder and put it up, but I'm going to have to glue it up. Come back to it tomorrow. And that's exactly what I did. And I can't tell you how comfortable I felt during this stage. Gluing up pallet wood and putting things together with my brain, with no plans, is absolute bliss for me. I did not enjoy the process of building that first bird box, or the second one for that count, at all. Not even a single bit. Yet, gluing up pallet wood and then not really having any measurements in mind and not really knowing where you're going to go with it, I don't know. I just find that comforting. It puts me in my happy place. Whilst floating up on cloud 9 and taking the clamps off this glued up panel the next day, I started hashing out some measurements. This is the only length that I bothered to glue up, so I've got to make an entire bird box out of these 2 pieces of pallet that are now glued together. I knew roughly the dimensions that the inside of the box needed to be. You can find that information on any of the bird websites, and be careful when you're searching for those on the internet. And I decided I didn't want the kind of sloping roof. I wanted to have a pitched roof, and I thought that would look fancier. I'd even do a little overhang. At one point I did get carried away in thinking about doing decking, but I realised this was for the birds, and the wife has got a big long list of other jobs that I should be doing other than putting up a bird box. With the interior dimensions kind of set out for me, and knowing that I wanted that pitched roof, then it was just a case of seeing how tall I could make everything and still have enough wood. I didn't have anything else left to use in the garage that would be glued up or suitable for this, so I just had to crack on. I used my 45 square to basically just mark out the roof, and then once I had that, I just needed to figure out the sides, where the entrance would go, and just made it up as I went along, and that makes me very, very happy. As well as the process of actually designing something yourself and figuring it out yourself being rewarded, there's another reward you get from that cannot be matched up to following plans. When you follow plans and it works out, you're just rewarded with, oh yeah, I didn't balls up in any way. Whereas when you create something like this, as simple as a bird box is, you're happy with yourself because not only have you not ballsed up, you've used your brain. This is my kind of woodworking. Using the old noggin, forcing yourself to think, overcoming the problems. And in my opinion, that's when I get a better product. Following a plan for a bird box. 10-year-olds do it and I mess it up. This is actually working. So after feeling quite happy with myself and going back to actually enjoying the time I spend in the garage, I basically just nailed all this together. I did away with the drill and I did away with the hammer. I just used a mixture of exterior wood glue and then some tiny brad nails to basically act as clamps until the glue dries. It was already getting on into the evening of a Sunday, so there was no chance of me going up a ladder to put this up today, so I figured what's the harm in just using glue as the main fixing element. So you might be wondering at this point in the video, why am I even building a bird box? Well, number one, I like nature, and I always have. Every one of my hobbies I've ever had has always involved me being outside or being active at some point in my life. And the other reason is I heard a quote a long while ago, and I think it's actually a Greek proverb, and me being me, I took it very literally. It goes something along the lines of, and I'm about to butcher this, the most noble of men plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. And I think that's supposed to be a metaphor for people doing good things and leaving a legacy behind. But I took that really literally. And when we moved into this house with a bigger garden, we planted a load of trees in the back. And since we've done that, we have been inundated with wildlife. And it's made me happy beyond belief. Nothing is better than making a coffee in the morning and looking out and seeing all the wildlife pottering about in something that you created. So never mind leaving behind something for society. I'm all about the nature, me. I didn't want to use any kind of stain or creosote or anything on the bird box because I know you're not supposed to, it's not good for the birds, but I do want to weatherproof the roof a little bit, so I'm using some exterior grade varnish just on the roof. The rest of it, as far as I'm concerned, can weather over time. Pine goes a lovely greyish colour after it's been out in the sun for a few weeks and seen the elements, and I'm more than happy with that. This is not here to look pretty. With the bird box, you're supposed to have the roof so that it's detachable, so I'm going to hold it in place with 2 screws, but I also need something along the back to stop the weather getting in. So all I've used here is a piece of old pond liner that we actually lined one of the raised beds in the garden with, and I'm using some nails which were clearly designed by somebody that didn't like their fingers. There is absolutely zero way to put these nails in without hammering your fingers, especially when you're trying to hammer them into something that's bouncy and rubbery. So with some bruised fingernails later, there was 4 tack nails in place, and that was my weatherproof strip. Hello. Silly. Now, I hated making this, but I don't hate that I've done it. And that might not make any sense to you, but it makes perfect sense in my brain. I've learned a new thing. I've learned that I don't like following plans. That's not a criticism of plans. They were easy to follow and easy to do. I just didn't enjoy doing it, and that surprised me. I loved making Lego as a kid. I'm that guy that likes doing flat pack furniture. But following plans made me miserable in the garage. So, is there a lesson to be learned from this? Well, yeah. For me, I've learned that actually my favourite part of woodworking is the problem solving. It's taking inspiration and ideas and then just figuring out how to do it yourself. That's not to say I don't watch videos, I don't read instructions, but every time I have, I've never followed them. I've taken inspiration and then I've just done it my way. And that, for me, is the absolute best part of woodworking. Having time to be creative and having time to find out what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And then there's also the making a load of balls up and trying to learn from those mistakes kind of learning. I do a lot of that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. And hopefully by then, I'll have had some tits in my box.